Hey, what's going on, everybody? Thank you all for joining me at this time. My name is Shavi Zane, and I'm coming on to just have a quick little chat with y'all. So I was sitting down and I was thinking about some things today. Just thinking back on my personal experience and, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people that I have done personal sessions for, personal consultations. I've noticed a pattern. Okay. And like I said, this is also from personal experience. I have noticed a pattern. Typically, in order to get to that space of healing, I'm talking about being able to break through barriers, being able to step into your power, becoming the alchemist and seeing change, not only within yourself, but in your 3D experience. In order to get to that space, it really does require for the man to remove himself from the feminine presence and for the woman to remove herself from the masculine presence. Now, I'm going to speak from the perspective of the divine feminine because I am divine feminine. So this is no shade as far as the masculines, but I'm speaking on behalf of divine feminine because the majority of my consultations have been with other women. I have also done consultations for men, but I'm noticing a pattern. Patterns matter, right? So, from my personal experience, I noticed that each time I withdrew my energy from a relationship, even in my sleep state, my life began to elevate just a little bit more. Not much in my sleep state, okay? I was like right here, real at a snail's pace, okay? But once I awakened and understood energy and removed myself from the presence of the men, I'm talking about romantically, remove myself from the presence of man, my life took a turn that I would not even be able to imagine years ago. Okay? I blossomed as a woman. I began to look better. I found my voice. I began to see the world from a different perspective. I found my purpose. I learned my abilities as a creator and I utilize them and I see results. What I think about becomes my reality within a matter of, very short period of time now. And I'm like, there has to be something to this. There has to be something to separating yourself from the male presence as a divine feminine and being able to see your life change right before your eyes. But in the presence of a lot of the masculines, I've noticed, not just for myself, but also for other women, that the healing is very minimal or it's very restrictive. Like they could be healing. I've talked to women who are in relationships, but their healing is very minimal. The expansion, the results of their alchemy is very minimal because there's always that presence there that seems to hover. I do believe, I know, that in the presence of a divine masculine who is balanced with his masculine and feminine, your creativity can most certainly take off and be at an all-time high. Your manifestations, your alchemy, your healing, all of that. Catapult. I know this. But unfortunately, there are not enough masculines who are balanced in both their masculine and feminine essence in order to bring that type of energy into the relationship or into the environment of a divine feminine so that she can also see results in both her healing and her creativity. So because that's not a common thing to have a masculine who is balanced, quite often feminines are subject or in the presence of masculines who are completely contaminating their womb. And when I say contaminating the womb, I'm talking about energetically, because they're sharing their sexual energy, their emotional energy, their heart chakra frequency, their thoughts, their mental, everything is literally catered around the masculine. And if I am orbiting my entire life around this other being who is off balance, then my orbit is also off balance, because I'm having to rearrange and readjust in order to ensure that my world revolves around his. That's typically taking place, like I said, only when you are connected to a masculine who is not balanced in both his masculine and feminine. You won't have to orbit your entire life around his when he has balance. There's an exchange of energy that happens. It's more like an infinity sign rather than, the straight orbit. Like he's the center point, he's the focal point, and everything that you do in life is surrounded by him. How you dress, how you speak, who you talk to, who you go out with, what you eat, how often you have intercourse, everything. That's not the nature of a divine feminine. That's not normal to begin with. No woman should have to cater her entire life around the desires of a man. The system that has been created has caused a lot of very backwards thinking. Oh, you better raise your daughter, prepare her to be a wife. Make sure that she knows how to get that meal ready. Make sure she knows how to fold them clothes. Make sure she's prepared to be submissive. Okay? But it's once you break out of this way of thinking and recognize that, hold on, I'm whole already. I'm whole already. Divine feminine. You're whole already. Okay? And you recognize the power that you possess, preserving your womb. No, you ain't just gonna share it with, definitely not with no masculine that's completely toxic. But even the ones who are awakened that still have yet to find that balance, you don't need to share it with them either. You don't need to share it with them either. When you are in the process of healing yourself and you are serious about that spiritual work, it's going to require for you to withhold your sexual energy, withhold your emotional energy, withhold your mental and your spiritual energy, and literally pour all of that into yourself. Can't nobody tell me, okay? This is for the majority. I'm not saying this is every situation, but most situations when a woman involves herself with a man, he gets much of her thoughts, much of her heart, her sexual energy, her creative energy, her time. Everything that she does is in preparation to ensure that he is satisfied, that she holds his attention. Everything is all about holding that man's attention. Because unfortunately, based on the way the society has bred a lot of the men, their attention span is very, very short. It's limited. Okay? They have very short attention span. And so when you're pouring that much energy and effort into another being, then how much energy and effort, first of all, you're exerting more than what you're holding. You're exerting more than what you are holding. And in order to heal, you can't be constantly being depleted and worn down and, mentally, spiritually, physically, sexually worn down while healing. Most people know this, even in the 3D, if you have a physical illness, a physical wound, you're not going to be pouring all of your attention into that other person. It's now time for you to pour that into yourself so that you can then have a healthier healing process. It's the same thing in the spiritual realm. If you really want to see change in your life, Divine Feminine, if you are serious about creating generational wealth for yourself and your family, if you are serious about activating your spiritual gifts and being able to tap in and receive those divine messages, if you are serious about getting back to your nature, there is going to require an extended period of your life being with yourself. And there will come a time that at some point you will align with a masculine who is balanced, and he will not disrupt what you have cultivated, but instead he will add to it, and he will also protect it. But to try and heal in the presence of an unbalanced energy that requires your undivided attention, good luck. Just know that you better be real patient, because that healing process is going to be extended. When I say extended, it's going to be slow. And because it's so slow, you better make sure that you are not aligning with the masculine who is re-injuring that wound. Because if he is not balanced with both his masculine and feminine energy, he will re-injure and re-injure and re-injure. And the healing process will never fully, it will not be, it's impossible for it to happen. How can you heal a wound that somebody is constantly poking at? But a masculine who is balanced with both his masculine and feminine essence, he would naturally come in with a healing nature. But consider, if you are an unhealed woman, the likelihood that you are going to attract a balanced, healed masculine is slim to none. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's slim to none, because he too has the right to attract someone who has also done the work, who is balanced with her masculine and feminine. So really what it boils down to is, it's best to remain single and in solitude during your period of healing and cultivation. I'm not just talking about the healing phase. I'm talking about the phase of growth. I'm talking about the phase of manifesting, calling things in, becoming the alchemist, and seeing results. All of that requires your undivided attention. It cannot be redirected towards another being that is off balance. You cannot orbit your energy around an off balance frequency, because your orbit is always going to be bouncing around, no steady pace. Okay? These are things to keep in mind if you find that you have yet to see results. Some of the feminines out there, you might say, look, Shavi, I've been on this healing journey for years. I've been awakened for years, but I can't seem to get a breakthrough in this business. I can't seem to find what my purpose is. I can't seem to finish what I start. And the majority of those women are involved with someone, some way, shape, or form, whether it's long-term or whether it's a situationship or whether it's someone that comes through every now and again when they get lonely. You're going to have to get to a space where you say, I am preserving my energy at all costs. No one will come in and corrupt the garden that I am cultivating. And I am going to continue to nurture this garden until I see fruit bear. And once the fruit bears, I am going to continue to ensure that the only beings that are welcome into my energy are those who are adding to the growth of my garden. That's it, and that is all. Anything less than is unacceptable. Anything less than will take you backwards. You'll find yourself having to start all over again. Okay? Or taking 100 steps backwards. because now your focus has been redirected towards a unbalanced being. And don't let it be a masculine that does not want to heal. Oh my goodness, that's the worst kind. Because naturally, as a divine feminine, we are nurturers by nature. We can sense, we can feel, we can see, and we want to help others to align their energy. And so then suddenly the attention goes from you healing yourself to you pouring it into that masculine, hoping that he will receive the care and the nurturing that you are trying to give to him that he's refusing to give to himself. Now you begin to fill the void when he should have already had that covered. My spiritual team has been bringing these messages towards me as of late. And I know that there's a few masculines out there that's like, Shavi is in her bag. Does she even like men? I love men. I love men. Y'all are beautiful creatures. But one thing that I have learned is that when it comes to healing, if that masculine is not healed, if he is not balanced, he will corrupt and disturb the growth and the evolution of the divine feminine. I'm very clear about that. So I strongly suggest, especially for you divine feminine out there, if you find that you just can't quite put your finger on it, you've been doing everything that you thought you needed to do. Look around in your environment. Are you still sharing your energy with a masculine who's not balanced? Really be honest with yourself. The world that we live in, it does make it difficult to separate yourself from situations, because a lot of times women will stay in unhealthy connections because they fear being alone. They fear having to handle everything by themselves. They fear what it might look like, especially if you have a family with this person. They fear judgment by people. What is it going to look like if I'm a single mother? Are people going to judge me? Is anybody ever going to want that person? It's a lot of different factors that will hold a woman in place within an unhealthy relationship. But while that's happening, consider this woman who has awakened, y'all. Her purpose stretches far beyond her family dynamic in that moment. Her healing is vital because the breaking of generational cycles is contingent on her healing. She might be the only woman in her family who has a fighting chance to fully awaken and rise into her divinity. And so that woman must take extreme measures to break free from anything that restricts her growth. I don't care what it is, who it is. A lot of people will try to convince that same woman, you're not, how are you breaking cycles if you're breaking up families, if you're walking away from that man because he's not perfect. It's not about him being perfect. It's about him being centered. It's about him being balanced. If that man is restricting your growth, you have to separate your energy. Nobody is saying that you may not come back in alignment with this person, but the only way he can realign with you as you continue to evolve and expand is if he himself is doing the work. Consider when we look at the woman, when we're talking about expanding, needing room to grow, the reason why it is so important that a woman should not be restricted or held bound by somebody else's, control in any way, shape, or form is because the woman needs room to grow. That's why when you notice when a woman conceives, she needs room for expansion because her belly has to grow in order to give birth to life. Life is dependent on the expansion and the growth of the woman. The woman is not meant to be held bound or restricted, not spiritually, not mentally, not physically, not emotionally, not in any way, shape, or form. It is vital That room is always left for the growth and expansion of the divine feminine. And unfortunately, if we really break it down and get back to the root of the restrictions, it all points back to a patriarchal system that has reared a lot of men up into thinking that they have to control the woman, shut her mouth, clamp her lips, cover her up, restrict her from growth, restrict her from knowledge, restrict her from teaching. No, these things will block your healing divine feminine. So that's really what it boils down to. I'm speaking from personal experience. Most of my personal setbacks in life was directly connected to an unhealed karmic man. I said it. I'm going to say it again. Most of my setbacks in life were directly connected to an unhealed karmic man. That's from childhood all the way into adulthood. When I look at the women in my family, most of the setbacks in their life was directly connected to an unhealed karmic man from childhood into adulthood. When I look at society today, most of the traumas that's happening from one country to the next is connected to the unhealed, controlling masculine energy. So until we get to that space where we start to acknowledge that, yes, things are ass backwards. Things need to change. It is time. It's been time. Let's start taking a look at these things. We're going to have to separate for a time until we get things back balanced. Okay? Got to separate in order to get things back balanced. You can't stay clumped up into a belief system or a way of doing things all in one household, all up underneath each other like crabs. Okay, and expect that balance will be restored. No, in order to balance things out, you got to separate things. You got to organize some things. You got to sort through some things and take a look at what's out of place. Where did we go wrong here? But you can't find organization. You cannot find balance again with the energy still wrapped up into itself. So the separation is not a punishment. It's not to say that love is not beautiful. It's not to say that that unions are not necessary. It's to say that, yeah, we really need to withdraw our energy, reclaim our energy, realign our energy, then come back into unions that are healthier. So this is the reset. Many of you will find that a lot of your karmic relationships, if you are at a certain space in your spiritual team, is like, look, you need more room for growth. I'm going to have to remove that person from your energy, or I'm going to have to remove you and take you over here. Don't see it as a punishment, and don't allow society to make you believe that because you don't have a counterpart in your life, especially divine feminine, that you are less than or less valuable. No, because fact of the matter is, there's going to be many, many, many goddesses out here who will be able to attest to the fact that their life took leaps and bounds in the absence of a karmic man. Easy. That's what I got to say. I would love to hear your opinions, especially those divine feminines out there. And masculines, I would love to hear from you too. Did your life begin to evolve? Did you begin to become a better person in the absence of a karmic woman? Divine feminine, it's time to take your power back. Remember who and whose you are. If you want to see growth and expansion, take your energy back. Call your energy back. Reclaim your power. You will see expansion and growth guaranteed.